So we got the Deadpool 3, or Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, and it's about time. Many of us have been looking forward to this for a while now. If you've watched any of my previous MCU videos, you already know I've been pretty much against Deadpool 3 from the beginning, at least in its current form. Marvel has a nostalgia problem. It's the cameoification of pop culture. You already know I detest Hugh Jackman's return to the claws, since Logan was about as finite and perfect of an ending as we could hope for that version of the character. Is it cool to have Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds on screen together? Sure, but there are a million different ways that a nod to Jackman's Wolverine could have been implemented in the movie while simultaneously ushering in the age of a new actor's time in the adamantium skeleton, which is what they desperately need to do. Move forward. The teaser for Deadpool and Wolverine is already the highest viewed trailer of all time, dethroning Spider-Man No Way Home. So whatever my dumb opinions are on it, which are certainly in the minority, it doesn't matter. Most of you are stoked out of your minds for it, and I am so happy for you. I wish I could get there. Even still, I'm going to give Deadpool and Wolverine a fair shake. I'm going to try to meet this movie and trailer where it's at, which is why the irony isn't lost on me that I've been complaining about Jackman's return as Wolverine, only to be disappointed in the lack of Wolverine in the first trailer for a film called Deadpool and Wolverine. But still, it feels like this trailer was made months ago before any of the leaks hit the internet and just didn't take into account any of the knowledge its audience has of the film. Most people, even before the trailer drop, knew Wolvie was going to at least appear in the film. That tends to happen when you have an official announcement with Hugh Jackman. I mean, hell, my mom knew he would be in it. It couldn't do any harm to show us a little bit of Wolverine. In fact, I feel like it would only amp fans up to get a little official taste of Hugh Jackman in the classic yellow suit back in action. Even if it was just a video version of the still they released all those months ago, it just felt a little weird because, again, this isn't just Deadpool 3, this is Deadpool and Wolverine. In all fairness, if this trailer came out before the massive Jackman leaks, it would have been a great tease, a nice cliffhanger. But since the better part of the world at this point has already seen the suit, why stop at a shadow? That being said, it is just a trailer. Hell, allegedly, it's a teaser, even though a 2.5 minute trailer isn't exactly what I'd call a teaser. That's a proper trailer one, in my opinion. It's very possible that a movie like this that's slated to be a zany trip through the multiverse will have a handful of twists and turns that a spoiler-filled trailer may have given away, and we definitely don't want all of that to be given away right off the bat. In that regard, I respect the restraint. I really do. Just perhaps not for something so obvious and that would only get more people excited. And that's not even mentioning the fact that even in a teaser, the co-lead of your film traditionally has some screen time. Whatever, I digress. Just in the meantime, let's talk about what we did see. For starters, we saw a bit more of the banished, deserted 20th Century Fox ruins that we got a taste of from those leaked images from half a year ago. I will say, while I appreciate the movie's efforts to film on location, to build practical sets and stuff like that, if this is supposed to be the multiversal buddy romp they're pitching it as, I really hope the full scene proves to be a bit more interesting to look at rather than what looks to be nothing more than a quarry with a few set pieces scattered in between. I know everyone's freaking out about the Deadpool gun whipping thing, and like, I guess in principle it is a cool looking shot. It's just so bland. It looks like concrete, and it's probably because they filmed it against the backdrop of concrete. I guess I just don't understand the hesitation to go buck wild with the multiverse to create a truly striking visual palette to really utilize lighting in an interesting way. I mean, obviously, I'm not a color grading expert. I'm not going to go in here and say, oh, they should have graded this differently, because I don't think that's necessarily the problem. I think the bigger problem is it just feels like a very uninteresting location to set something like this. Look, the movie's still a couple months out. Stuff might change. The colors, the vibrancy, whatever. It might all look better by the time the movie comes out. It probably will. But I also know that it'll probably still have that Marvel sheen to it. Again, it's a cool shot. I'm not going to pretend like it's not, but it doesn't really do a whole lot for me in the era of John Wick. We also get our first taste of the TVA in a project outside of Loki, linking the series to the wider MCU for the first time since the show's pilot episode. No big players yet, as I'm sure fans of the show are dying to see some reprisals from characters like Mobius, B-15, and Ouroboros. In fact, I'd be extremely surprised if the credits roll and none of them show up for at least a cameo or something like that. I'm sure they'll throw in Owen Wilson in there in some capacity. But that being said, we did get a look at more than a handful of Minutemen, and everything from the use of pruning batons to forceful tactics makes their role in the movie suspicious at best. Is it the same TVA we've seen in the series? Is it an earlier incarnation of Kang's time police? It's a little hard to tell at this point where exactly in the timeline outside of time Deadpool and Wolverine will take place, but perhaps for speculation's sake, that's for the best. It's also worth noting that the end of Deadpool 2 sees Wade travel through time to right the wrongs of the franchises and Ryan Reynolds' past. With that in mind, it would behoove Deadpool and Wolverine to use that as a jumping off point to work in the TVA. We've seen what happens with Loki when he fucks with the timeline to serve his own desires, so if that is in fact the case, I gotta admit, it is a clever way of tying in the TVA to Deadpool in a way that feels organic to the multiverse concept. Along with the TVA, we get glimpses of fan-favorite characters from Deadpool's first two outings on the big screen, giving us a good idea of the film's setup before the bulk of the storyline. In the trailer, we see characters like Colossus, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and of course, Peter, gathering around to celebrate Wade Wilson's birthday. Not long after, Wade is kidnapped and pursued by the TVA's Minutemen, the action that undoubtedly will take up a good bulk of the movie's second act. Many fans have already spotted a torn up copy of a Secret Wars comic book on the ground next to Wade before he's stabbed by Wolverine at the end of the trailer, heavily implying that his mere existence in the MCU is most likely going to be the catalyst that leads to this saga's endgame, no pun intended. It's been my theory for a while that Marvel intends to end this saga with multiple universes experiencing incursions at the same time due to fractures in the multiverse brought on by characters like Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and it'll be up to an uber powerful player to fold each of the dying worlds into one shared universe in order to save each of them. It'd be a solid way to officially introduce mutants into the MCU. Regardless, Deadpool's adventures in his latest film may run concurrently with the events of the MCU and could very well end up being the straw that broke the multiversal camel's back. I mean, it certainly looks like he's going to go into past Avengers type events, like when we see him go into the wintry woods after we've seen what's on screen from the TVA, it looks like he's going into a scene from Avengers Age of Ultron. It definitely feels like they're doing the endgame thing, which I get because you have to integrate Deadpool into the MCU in some capacity, but I don't really like the fact that every one of these things has to be this massive world-ending event. It's pretty clear to fans of both the movies and their comic counterparts that the Merc's third feature will most likely take heavy influence from Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, a one-off Elseworld storyline where Deadpool is driven mad by Psycho Man and, well, kills the Marvel Universe. The story itself was met with mixed reviews, though it was meant as just a fun, non-canonical story featuring a completely unhinged Wade Wilson, though the movie will most likely take influences from the book series rather than an entire plotline. It's hardly a strong enough source material to warrant much predetermined excitement. That being said, Deadpool's TVA pursued world jump and his journey through the land of the pruned will most likely bring him face to face with many alternate universe versions of our favorite heroes, which will likely lead into the cameo extravaganza I feared this film would be. I mean, we already kind of know that, like, Ben Affleck's Daredevil or, you know, Jennifer Garner's Elektra and a bunch of other Fox characters are gonna find their way into this film, and that's fine, I guess. It's just kind of not what I wanted this film to be at all. Wade's comment about being the Marvel Messiah, Marvel Jesus, could imply that the film will comment on and critique the embarrassing state of the MCU, but that is assuming Disney and Marvel are capable of that level of introspection. I can't imagine the studio responsible for the universe's shortcomings as of late will allow much more than a few playful jabs at the matter. Think the Kevin robot at the end of She-Hulk. Honestly, a lot of Deadpool and Wolverine looks like it'll only be a step edgier than She-Hulk, only with a heavy dose of nostalgia instead of a Daredevil walk of shame, which we all know how that turned out. But you know what? Let's talk about pegging, which is certainly never a way I thought I'd start a sentence, but here we are. You know, this line, the line where Deadpool is kind of talking about that and like looking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall, it just felt like, well, like a hollow reassurance. Many fans of Deadpool have been concerned since the announcement of his MCU arrival that Disney wouldn't put forward the right team to give Wade that edgy kick that they fell in love with while he was a Ryan Reynolds indie project backed by Fox. The line felt like it came straight from a Disney writer's room filled with folks that were worried what they can and can't say in a Deadpool script without the mouse coming down on them hard.
That came out wrong.
Disney has shown that they don't know how to test the limits with their mature content in the past. Marvel's Echo was the first project to be released under the TVMA label, and it barely showcased any brutal violence, let alone gracing us with an F-bomb of some sorts. I mean, hell, James Gunn has gone on record saying Kevin Feige tried to dissuade him from using the MCU's first F-bomb in his final installment of the Guardians trilogy. It's this same fear of just doing what needs to be done with the characters and the tones and worlds they live in that Daredevil fans have had about the character's upcoming revival series, Daredevil Born Again. All of this to say that I get why fans would be concerned. They have every right to be concerned that Wade Wilson's first outing in the MCU may not be all that it's cracked up to be. I get the initial hesitation that Disney is gonna sand off the edges of Wade Wilson. It's very clear that's not going to be the case, and I don't think they were ever going to do that, regardless of what we thought. Because the truth is, Deadpool is a lucrative IP. It's proven in its current form. They'll give it an R rating. They'll give Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy and all these people the creative freedom to make a Deadpool movie that they would traditionally make, because you know fans will outrage if it's not. And it wouldn't be Deadpool if it's not. But exactly how far will they take that R rating is yet to be seen. I guess all this to say that some of the meta-ness of it, some of the edgy R-rated stuff feels more like an overcorrection to just, I guess, satisfy the fans' needs. I think that was sort of the thing that struck me while watching this trailer, is that it's kind of devoid of the charm of the past couple Deadpool films. And now, I'm not the biggest fan of Deadpool 2, and I think the original Deadpool has kind of worn thin on me. I can appreciate it and respect it for what it is and what it's trying to do. And I think when it came out, it was this sensation, and rightfully so. But as the years have gone on, I just don't really care to revisit it as much anymore. But that being said, at least those films had a distinct identity, had like a charm to them. The character was clearly kind of established. The world of the character felt distinct to him, and the meta-ness was mostly witty. I guess what I'm trying to say is that here it feels like they're putting Deadpool in an MCU film as opposed to making a Deadpool movie. And the reason it feels like that is because of all of these extra elements they're adding in here, the TVA, the multiverse, all these random cameos from characters from like 2002. Deadpool used to be a character that could just do it himself. He was enough. He was the selling point. That's why people would go to the movies, because they really enjoyed what Ryan Reynolds was doing with this character. You don't need to pair him with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. It doesn't matter if this allegedly takes place before the events of Logan, which I highly doubt given the multiversal shenanigans. The fact of the matter is, this will forever and always be the final performance of Hugh Jackman's career as Wolverine. That's just gonna be a bit of a bummer, because I don't think it'll be in line with what they had previously been doing with that character. And I hate being so pessimistic about all this. I truly want this movie to be great. I want to be proven wrong. It's just everything I've seen is not really winning me over. I'm just so tired of all of this nostalgia going on in the MCU for past versions of the characters. They have to stop. I guess what all this essentially boils down to is leave the past behind and move on from it before your fans move on from you. And for the character of Deadpool, I mean, he deserves more respect than just oh, we're gonna pair him with a bunch of other things, and that's what you're really gonna go to the movie for. Ryan Reynolds' triumphant tale of getting the first Deadpool movie made after the studio wanted to kill it is an amazing story. Pulling off the movie that Fox owed him in the first place was an incredible and inspirational feat. The last thing I want to see is this character's legacy tarnished after such a struggle to get him on the big screen in the first place. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case, I just don't want them to keep going for low-hanging fruit. It's really easy to use Deadpool the wrong way. It's really easy to use him as a means for unlocking nostalgia doors. I just don't think it's all that interesting. And I would hope that Ryan Reynolds knows that the character deserves better than that. After all, as the trailer totes, everyone deserves a happy ending.